Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
And Lars.
And welcome back to Going in Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to right here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson. Available wherever podcasts can be found, and of course, taped live at the twitch.tv/Steve and Larson, and these days on the YouTube as well, youtube.com/Steve and Larson. If you're watching the show, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit the notify bell, and give us a thumbs up. It'll really help the show. Also, if you're listening to us in the audio realm, do us a favor, leave us a rating, review, or a comment. That also helps us greatly. If you want to check out some bonus content from Going in Raw this Friday, we've got our latest episode of Overrun. It's exclusive to $5 and up patrons and YouTube channel members. All you got to do is click join. Last week on Overrun, we had our WCW Nitro Episode 1 retro review. You guys asked us to bring back retro reviews. They're back once a month, exclusive to patrons, YouTube channel members, for an exclusive timed window. And then, I don't know, like a week or two, I'll throw it up on the regular channel.
Some random span of time, it'll end up on our...
It's going to be completely random. Yeah, exactly.
It will be. It'll just be, oh, we got to do this, don't we? Yeah. All right.
We should probably do that. Yeah, do it. Yeah, exactly.
That's typically how things operate here at Going in Raw.
Sort of how we do things around here. Anyways, on today's episode, of course, we're going to talk about AEW Dynamite from last night and all the goings-ons there. And then we're also going to talk about the Warner Brothers Discovery. Just messing up time after time after time. So we'll start there. So on yesterday's Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer explained why last night we didn't see a Jay Briscoe memorial show on Dynamite, which everybody figured, hey, at least they'd give the guy a 10-bell salute. They'd do something besides just the card at the beginning that they did and a couple people with the armbands.
Yeah, Nick Scalper mentioning him a couple times. Yeah.
So Dave Meltzer had this to say. These transcripts come to you via WrestlingNews.co. He said, if you watched tonight's show and you're expecting something, I know a lot of people were, something like the Brody Lee show, and obviously that didn't happen. There was basically a graphic at the start of the show, and at the very end of the show, there was a mention by Excalibur. A lot of guys had armbands, a lot of them, but there was not any kind of big tribute because they were not allowed by Warner Brothers Discovery to do one. They filmed a 1-hour show in Fresno tonight that will be on Honor Club. They'll be doing another tribute show. When they finally do the Ring of Honor television show, the first show will feature a lot of Jay matches, and the tribute show will as well when it's all put together. At Super Card of Honor in late March on WrestleMania weekend, there will also be a kind of memorial to Jay or something to honor Jay. We have a list here of the tribute show match card, but we'll get to that in just a second. It seems like a cool card. Warner Brothers Discovery. If I'm Tony Khan, man, that's not really helping things when it comes to like renewing your TV deal, huh?
No, it's incredibly disappointing that I guess a little bit of backstory here is apparently when Ring of Honor temporarily folded before Tony Khan bought the company. There was talk. The Briscoes were free agents, and there was a lot of talk. Will they come to AEW? FTR was clear and had been clear for a while. They wanted to wrestle, and whatever efforts Tony Khan might have made to sign the Briscoes, apparently Warner Brothers Discovery said we don't want them on television because of a tweet or maybe several tweets. I don't know exactly. Jay put up that were awful. I don't want to minimize. There were some homophobic tweets that Jay put up back in 2013 that were, as you said, awful. They were. Mm-hmm. However, on multiple occasions throughout the last 10 years, and not just to try to get on TV, but on multiple occasions, Jay has apologized, and he gave a fairly insightful apology. Let me see if I still have that up here. The one he did as recently as last year, like March.
The one last March. He said this. He said, "I said some dumb shit a long time ago. I apologized for it, and I'll apologize again. It was stupid. I feel like now there are people who look at us like we can't cheer for them because they hate a certain group of people. We don't hate nobody. We love everybody. We're just some country boys. I thought I was taking a stand for the Lord back in the day." You realized from that immaturity That's not what you were doing, because anything, God and the Lord, he has love above everything, above anything. This is now Mark. He says that card trumps anything else. What you thought you were doing, taking a stand for the Lord, was counterproductive to the kingdom of God, not only to being a human being and relating with other humans that we live with and love. So there have been multiple apologies over the years. And in fact, multiple wrestlers from the LGBTQ plus community paid tribute to Jay, said this guy turned it around. What more, like when people, when somebody says something like this years ago, and they endeavor to truly make a change in their outlook, in their life, in the way they live, and the way they approach, humanity, and they genuinely make that change, I can't think of a better example to put on TV than somebody like that, who's gone through the process of changing and evolving and bettering themselves.
Yeah, agreed. I don't get it. It's incredibly disappointing that Warner Brothers Discovery had that stance to begin with, given the evolution that we saw with Jay Briscoe, and then even last night, considering the circumstances, weren't willing to budge on that stance. Yeah. It's incredibly disappointing. It really is.
Not to mention hypocritical, because there's all sorts of other instances where Warner Brothers Discovery find working with other people with who didn't grow as humans. And I'm not going to name names here. We have a super chat here from MDB who does that, but I appreciate the super chat and I appreciate the sentiment. But yeah, it's not good. Honestly, Warner Brothers Discovery, and this is an instance where it sort of goes above and beyond things like, canceling the Batgirl movie because they want a tax incentive. Like, this deals with like a person with a family who just died, and a wrestling company who wants to, pay tribute to him. But time and again, Warner Brothers Discovery, especially since this new fella took over, the Zaslav or whatever his name is, it's just fuck up after fuck up.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. It's a bummer they couldn't do more on TV last night, and I guess given the circumstances, it seems like Tony Khan is trying to do the best he can. You mentioned talking about this card for the Jay Briscoe Celebration of Life show. We can get to that now. We got Yuka Sakazaki versus Sandra Moon, Juice Robinson versus Brandon Cutler, Marina Shafir versus Mighty Mira, Eddie Kingston versus QT Marshall, Athena versus Madison Rain, Wheeler Yuta versus, I'm not familiar with Shino. I don't know. You know who that is?
Wait, I'm trying to get to you. I am not. I can look them up really quick.
Thank you. And then we got Claudio Castagnoli taking on Christopher Daniels. And I read some of the spoilers, if you will, from the tribute show, and there's a couple people that come out and drop promos honoring Jay Briscoe. If they're taking these matches and putting in some of Jay's work throughout the show, trying to make it like a 2-hour memorial show, it could be. I'm looking forward to that. So, but it's just disappointing we didn't get something like that last night on Dynamite because of Warner Discovery.
Yeah. So yeah, look, we're gonna sort of expose our lack of knowledge in Japanese wrestlers.
Oh, okay. Devmo says Shino wrestled Kenny on Dark. I did hear about that. Okay,
all right. Probably a really good wrestler we haven't heard of, and they're about to blow up.
Totally,
that's who they are. Yeah. So yeah, dude. Very disappointing. But yeah, it sounds like there's a lot in the pipeline in terms of honoring Jay Briscoe. And you know what? Like, I'm sure his family has more important things right now to deal with than, worrying about Warner Brothers Discovery and their bullshit. So, anyways, Dynamite last night. What'd you think of the show, dude?
I thought it was a pretty enjoyable show. There were some really good matches. Young Bucks and Top Flight put on a hell of a match.
Hey, you know what, man? I was thinking during that match, I'm like, the Young Bucks really need to let Top Flight go over here because they're not in the tag team. The Young Bucks are not in the tag team division.
No, they're a trios team now.
They're a trios team now, and you need to build up the tag division. And what better way to do that, especially with Top Flight? They're so good.
I know.
what better way to do that than to give them a big win over the Young Bucks? And that's exactly what happened.
That's what happened. Now we need to see the follow through because, of course, Private Party defeated the Young Bucks years ago when they had that tournament to crown the first tag champs.
Yeah.
And as we see with Private Party, the follow through hasn't exactly always been there.
Yeah.
So hopefully the follow through with this is much more successful. Also, Bryan Danielson, Bandito beat the hell out of each other.
Oh my God. I swear, man, I texted you, I was like, this match is starting to fall apart because towards the end it was getting sloppy, but kind of fun sloppy.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
It was good. It was really good. Probably from a storyline perspective, the most substantial thing that happened is we saw an interesting heel turn from Toni Storm and fairly surprisingly Saraya. Now, I actually really like Toni Storm's heel work. We saw a little bit of that in NXT,
same, yeah.
And it was great. And what we saw at her promo last night was awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm happy they turned Toni heel because after her title run and subsequent loss, they need to do something with her to keep her involved because she's great.
Yeah.
And a heel turn, I think, is going to do it. I was a bit surprised they turned Saraya heel, 2 months after she came back?
It is kind of surprising, but
maybe it's something that she wanted to do.
Even if it's not, I like it. You know what I mean?
I like the angle they're taking with it, where it's like, oh, all these AEW homegrown talents, they live in this bubble. They don't know what essentially they don't know what it's like in the real world of professional wrestling, i.e. WWE.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so they look down on them.
Yeah. I like Sheeta's reactions to all this. Like she's just standing next to him in that little, segment. It honestly, immediately last night, it seemed like Saraya was having more fun than since she's been there. And it's only been, like you said, it's been a couple months. It hasn't even been that long. She had 2 matches. But it seems clear that her and Toni are probably going to have a lot of fun doing this. And it solves the problem of, well, Jamie Hayter's like her, regardless of her actions, Jamie Hayter is going to be cheered. And if they do not want to do the Britt Baker thing just yet, which I think it's smart to hold off on that, give her a line, because if Britt Baker's going to turn on her, then Britt Baker's probably got to get that title, and to make the story a bit more interesting, make that like a big deal. In the meantime, yeah, sure, why not? Like it is kind of surprising that they're turning Saraya this early. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm like, whatever, I'll go with it. I'm cool with it.
And it's going to be interesting to see if it kind of got the sense of a line in the sand drawn between former WWE talents. I mean, we saw last night with Ruby Soho. She comes out to make the save to help Willow after Toni and Saraya start stomping on her.
Yeah.
But herself being a former WWE wrestler, are Toni and Saraya going to try to recruit her to their side? It's going to be interesting. And after what happened last week, we all thought, oh, she does to be the one that turns heel. Doesn't look like it.
Yeah. It also capitalizes on a really, and honestly, we've criticized AEW in the past for not sort of reading the room. And Ruby Soho had put in just a terrific performance in that street fight, and it was a very memorable one. Same way Britt Baker did. If you know where the camera's at, you got all sorts of blood going on, people are going to talk about you.
Yeah.
And Ruby got a huge pop last night when she came to make the save, and it's like, man, Ruby's never had that run in AEW that we all kind of feel she really deserves and she could run with.
Yeah.
And maybe that's going to be now. With because obviously her and Willow are going to have a thing with Saraya and Toni Storm, and I think you want to capitalize on Ruby Soho being one of your top faces at this point.
Agreed. And we've often criticized AEW for how they've handled the creative of their women's division. It seems like we have a story that's involving a decent portion of the division that apparently will cross over. And we'll have multiple feuds kind of springing off from this.
Yeah.
And I saw some speculation on social media last night that maybe it'll lead to blood and guts.
Yeah, I saw that same thing. Yeah. Which would be great.
If that's the case, that's awesome.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that it's away from the title. So I thought that was good too, because you want strong stuff that doesn't have to include title stuff.
Exactly. And if you got Saraya and Toni and maybe other former WWE talents here kind of forming maybe a loose faction, it's kind of a line. They have a common philosophy. WWE's better than any place else,
Right,
and anybody who hasn't worked there, they're kind of amateurs. I mean, that's kind of seemingly what was Tony's philosophy last night during her promo.
Yeah, right, you've never been hit in the face with a pie.
yeah. That's some fun stuff that they could use to tell some stories. So hopefully, again, it's all about follow through. It's an interesting premise. I like the heel turn. Follow through with more interesting stuff. Give the women time to tell their stories and put on really good matches, and this could be really great.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, let me ask you this. Great. Going back to because you're right, this is some good story stuff, and that's what we're all about, man. We like the story stuff. Going back to Top Flight, where would you go now for follow through in terms of giving them characters beyond, hey, we do really cool high flying stuff? I feel like what's their names? Private Party. Let's call them Street Profits. Private Party. I feel like they eventually sort of found characters by not being used. Like they were like in character, they just been dicked around by like a bunch of people contractually wise.
Yeah.
It's like first Matt Hardy, then it was now it's the Firm. And it's like they're just always seem to be kind of sad. And so like I'm like, man, I kind of feel like they've actually built some character. They just need story to go along with it.
Exactly.
Where they're not just bystanders. As far as Top Flight is concerned, obviously you don't want to go down that route because it hasn't really led to success for Private Party. What would you do with Top Flight in order to just give them some character? Like, besides just let them be themselves?
I mean, part of it, whatever character they have should be extensions of themselves because then it comes off as more genuine. We saw Dante's development on the mic while Darius was out hurt. And I wonder if they could use, Darius's. I can't remember who mentioned this, but someone mentioned that he was injury prone. Mm-hmm. He had to run a bad luck. Darius did seemingly with getting hurt. If Darius specifically, but them as a unit too, can use that as a chip on their shoulder to say, hey, people think Darius is injury prone. Dante can see, people can obviously see that I have a lot of talent, but people don't think I can be a star. We're here to prove that we can, dispel people, whatever preconceived notions they have about us individually or as a team based on what we've done so far, and go out there and be champions.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Be baby faces still, but at the same time, have that chip on your shoulder.
With all the time that throughout both when Darius was injured and Dante was doing a lot of solo work, I thought he really developed nicely on the mic.
Yeah,
I thought that he was really coming along, and maybe some of it is just like let them get more reps. Yeah, just let them talk a bunch, and then get them into some sort of story. I don't know, man. I mean, you got the most popular act in AEW as your tag team champions.
Yeah.
So I'm not even sure that you want to have them be good guys. I like the idea of the chip on their shoulder.
Well, if they could find.
Because Top Flight came in relatively. How long have they been in AEW?
Yeah, I mean they weren't obviously from the very beginning, but it wasn't long after they joined the company.
Yeah.
And what you could do with Top Flight is take your time, let them develop as characters. I mean, obviously from the in-ring perspective, they're ready because they're great. But from a character perspective, let them develop, and you can kind of have their rise to the top kind of run parallel to the Acclaim.
Yeah.
Because the Acclaimed are the most over act in the entire company. And then if and when you have a heel team beat the Acclaim for those tag titles, then Top Flight is ready to assume the role of number one babyface tag team while
they're
the Acclaim
ready to take off.
Yes, exactly. While the Acclaim can do stuff still as a tag team outside the title picture for a spell.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with this because I'd love to see that tag team blow up, the tag team division blow up like it had in the past. I think they've got a lot of. Where is Private Party anyway?
They're on Dark and Elevation. Ethan Page mentioned that he's been making Isaiah Cassidy's life a living hell during his promo last night. They're wrapped up in the Matt Hardy Ethan Page thing.
Yeah,
that's been playing out exclusively on Dark and Elevation, but based on what I've seen on Twitter is like really interesting, fun stuff.
It's actually good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyways, before we continue on with the recap of the show, let's pay some bills. What do you say, Larson?
Let's do it. Let's take a quick break here, friendos. This episode of Going in Raw is sponsored by BetterHelp. You know, Steve, it took me quite a while to find out what I'm like when I'm at my best. You know, for example, there were a few years in my 20s where I was feeling really overwhelmed by life and started dealing with severe anxiety. And it got to the point where I made the realization that I needed to go to therapy. Working with a therapist helped me find better ways to cope with my anxiety, empowered me to be more prepared for whatever life throws my way, and set me on the path to hopefully becoming a better Larson.
Oh man, I think you're well on your way there. And if you're thinking about giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, flexible, affordable, and completely online. All you got to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get you matched up with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time and for no additional charge.
If you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/raw today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/raw.
Last night's Dynamite began with, like we said, in memory of Jay Briscoe card, so at least they got that in. And then we kick things off with the All-Atlantic title, Orange Cassidy versus Jay Lethal. Of course, if Double J or Satnam Singh got involved, Sanjay Dutt, the sort of brains of the whole operation, he's fired.
I haven't necessarily been the Jeff Jarrett's top fan, but I thought he was wildly entertaining and during this match because all he wanted to do was jump over the barricade and destroy Orange Cassidy.
Do you see what I'm talking about now?
And Sanjay sweating this entire time, not just during the match, but after the match, to keep Double J or Satnam from getting involved in any way and costing him his job. And the way that was driving him nuts and the lengths he was going to keep them from getting involved was actually pretty darn entertaining.
It's a pretty clever little story beat, isn't it? It's pretty good. Yeah, I like that. And then the best friends come over because they're going to go sit, in their seats too.
Behind Double J and Satnam.
Right behind them because Double J and those guys, they had kicked some fans out of their seats. Oh man, I gotta buy another Slapnut shirt, man. He's cracking me up these days. So anyways, this is a terrific match, man. Jay Lethal even hit his lethal injection on Orange Cassidy, but Cassidy went rolling out of the ring. Let's see here. Chuck, then it shows Chuck dumping some popcorn on Sanjay Dutt's head. The ref confronts Dutt. Jarrett tries to hand Lethal his guitar. Danhausen intercepts that. Lethal chases him around the ring, then into the ring. Orange rolls up Jay, gets 2 with that, but then Cassidy hits an orange punch to get the win. And then best friends get in the ring. Jarrett, Singh, and Dutt jump the barricade. Singh gets in the ring, grabs the best friends by the throat.
About to choke slam them in.
Yeah, right. Dutt's like, dude, come on, let him go. He does. And then Double J's about to blast Orange Cassidy with tar. Dutt snatches it from him. And then Orange gives Dutt some shin kicks. Sanjay takes off his jacket to respond, but Lethal holds him back at that point. It's pretty funny stuff.
It was all really entertaining, and it's pretty impressive that Orange Cassidy can find creative ways to still get the comedy stuff in the matches, but you don't lessen his character's intensity when he needs to have it.
Yeah.
They found a really good balance between having him have the intensity of a competitor that you need to take seriously, but also you get the comedy bits in there too.
Yeah, a lot of people have asked us that question, over the past couple of years, like how do you keep a comedy act like Orange Cassidy fresh? And honestly, he's done a pretty good job of it, whether it's the match, one of my favorite matches last year, the Shibata match in Orange Cassidy, where he sort of, he brings the intensity when him as a character wants to bring the intensity. And then all the other times, he's his cool, normal self. But yeah.
Yeah. Then we get a Darby Allin Kushida video package. That's our main event for the evening, and highlighting Kushida's career around the world. And then we got Top Flight versus Young Bucks. Both Nick and Matt had some armbands that said Jay on them.
As did Jay Lethal earlier, yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
he had a Briscoe one, yeah.
And then Bandito and Bryan Danielson did later in the show as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic bout early on.
So much fun, man.
Nick is generally credited or said to be one of the best athletes in AEW. And so early on, it was a battle of one-upsmanship between Dante and Nick, and Dante was consistently getting the better of it, and it was frustrating Nick.
Yeah.
So then Nick slaps him, tags in Matt. Matt goes right for the throat. So like that early story beat, I thought was great. Then down towards the end, Nick, Top Flight hits I'd assume it's their finisher because I can't imagine them hitting a move that's going to be more destructive than this. A powerbomb nosedive combo that was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome on Matt. So Nick breaks up that pin, drags Matt to their corner, tags himself in, hits Darius with the springboard X Factor, takes out Dante on the floor with the moonsault off the apron, then hits Darius with the springboard destroyer. Darius kicks out of that. So then Matt, he kisses the Jay Briscoe armband. The Young Bucks hit Darius with the Doomsday device. Dante breaks up that pin. And then Dante dumps both Matt and Nick out of the ring, looks for a springboard splash. Instead, he gets the stereo super kicks midair. The Young Bucks call for a BTE trigger on Darius. He ducks it, so they knock knees, and then he rolls up Matt to get the win.
Yeah, solid stuff. The Doomsday device, shout out to the Briscoes as well. Excalibur called that one out. After that, hit the spa music. We got some Gun Club going on. Colton,
even the spa music, I'm starting to warm to it.
Oh, I've been warming that for a while now. Yeah, I know. I do. Honestly, the Gun Club, talk about development. They have come a long way since the split from their dad. And I like this segment right here. So the Gun Club come out to cut a promo. He says, he tells the crowd, show some respect to the best tag team in the world. And they've really been able to make the most out of that FTR win. Yeah. That's what I like about that. That was a big springboard for where they are right now.
That win really meant something.
In just a couple of weeks, and that's what you want if you're going to have a big win like that. Hopefully Top Flight can do the same thing, because Gun Club has really come from not having much character beyond just being obnoxious to, I'm not going to say necessarily super fleshed out, but we have a much better idea as to who they are and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, Austin says, last week the Acclaimed embarrassed us on national TV, but what you forget is that we made the Acclaimed popular. We made them champs. We even gave them our dad. But I promise that's going to be the last time they ever embarrass us. So the Acclaimed come out. The Ass Boys are yelling for the truck to cut the music. We don't want to hear his rhymes. And Caster asks the crowd, what, you guys come here to hear the Ass Boys talk? Or do you want to hear me freestyle? And then, crowd obviously pops for that. He says, yeah, we're going to freestyle. And then he says, shut off Austin's mic and hit my music. And then Caster drops a couple verses. The Acclaim gets in the ring. They brawl with the Guns. And then Billy Gunn peels them all off. And the Ass Boys leave the ring. And Billy gets on the mic and says, I'm sick and tired of this. I'm tired of the whiny self-privilege of you guys, talking about the Gun Club. He says, and the Acclaimed, you guys are tag champs. Let's start acting like it. He says, we've got the Guns. We all have some sort of issues. Next week, we're all going to sit down and hash this out. He says, so right now I've got 2 words for you. Family therapy. So we'll see how that segment's either going to be complete trash. I get the feeling it's going to be entertaining. Yeah. Because everybody amongst these guys, I think that they do entertaining stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I hope it comes off pretty well. Because it's going to go a long way in terms of developing the Gun Club, their characters. And I like that they're coming back around to this feud between the Acclaim and the Gun Club now. That the Acclaimed are champs. Gun Club, they'll try to take credit for the Acclaimed success. There's good stuff to work with there. After that, we had a Hangman Page interview with Renee. This was great. She asked, after last week, how you feel? And he says, physically, I feel fine. But after our first match, John took something from me, and I told him to his face that I would beat him for the world title. And I did it. He took my word from me and knocked me out. And I feel like with this win over John, I at least have my word back. So Renee says, John said something interesting to me, that you really pushed Mox to be a better version of himself and taking the places he both didn't like going and liked going. And how does that make you feel? And Paige says, well, I understand the nature of wrestling. In our first match, he put me to sleep, but then he wanted to make a joke about it. So I told him to his face and knock him out cold if I had to beat him, and I did. And if he has something else to say about that, he could say it to my face, and I'll gladly do it again. And Renee asks, where do you go from here? And Hangman says, well, something you said earlier that kind of reminded me of where I like to go. Some tough conversations I'd like to have. Need to mend some fences that have needed mending for a long time. I don't want to get overly specific. I'll just leave it at that. So Renee wraps it up, and it feels like in most other circumstances, they would have turned the camera off or cut the feed, and that would have been the end of the conversation. So this felt like a little aside that wasn't supposed to be photographed for the TV show. So Paige
I only wish that they had, because it was clear what was happening.
Yeah.
But just for the purposes of like giving it that extra feel, like bring the camera down a little bit, like the
or
camera
at least kind
guys,
of lead it over, like the cameraman's not holding
like
it
it's done.
straight.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
So Paige says, hey, how is Mox actually feeling? And Renee says, for the better part of 10 years, as long as I've known him, he's been hurt in some way, but he'll dust himself off. And Paige says, okay, good. If you get a chance, could you tell? Actually, never mind. It's stupid.
Yeah.
So you have, this reminded me, and it's not, maybe it's related, maybe it's not. That first time Hangman came out and talked all that shit about CM Punk, and he got out of the ring and gave that heavy sigh.
Yeah.
And I probably read too much of it into it at the time, but it
That
felt
that heavy sigh was just, I don't be working with this guy.
that could be, but it felt
But
like I don't really want to do what I just did, but I have to do it.
Yeah.
In terms of going in so hard on CM Punk. And this had the same vibe to it, where the camera is rolling, he's got to be tough guy wrestler. When he thinks the camera's off, he's Adam Page,
Well, it's kind of interesting that the beat that he took last week after he saw Mox be concussed, and he didn't look happy about it. Mm-hmm. And he looks at Mox, and Mox is a guy who's like basically a 180 of that. Mox is a guy who's fine concussing people. He's fine being concussed. As Renee just said, it takes him to a place he likes going. It pushes him to be better. And Hangman, I think his thing is, I'm not like that. I don't want to do that. I want
to hurt people. Yes.
I want to wrestle. I don't want to make somebody go blank. He's got a family. I've got a family. Like we need to be thinking about that stuff. Mm-hmm. I like that. I think that's it's that dynamic is so much more interesting than just I'm gonna Hangman during the Punk feud. I'm gonna destroy you. That weird shit. This feels much more interesting and some some fuel for some good story right here.
Exactly. Because this is something they'll probably revisit after Mox takes a little bit of a break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It feels that way. After that, we had Jake Hager in his hat taking on Ricky Starks. Chris Jericho joins commentary for this one. At one point, Hager has his hat on, and then Starks rams his head into the top turnbuckle, takes the hat off, and puts it on himself. It's pretty interesting how Hager, to a degree, has reinvented himself as a comedy wrestler.
Yeah, I know, and somehow it really works.
It does really work.
Like last week when he said, "I'm going to knock your face off that face," or whatever he said.
I'm going to kick your face off your face. Whatever
it was pretty funny stuff.
But this is a fun bout. A good win for Starks here. So the finish saw Matt Menard get on the apron. So Starks knocks him off, and then Parker gets on the apron. So Starks takes a swing at him. Parker ducks, grabs him so that Hager can hit him. So Hager charges, and as he's about to approach Parker, Starks evades, so Hager knocks Parker off the apron. Hager turns around, Starks hits him with a spear to get the win, and then Sammy and Daniel Garcia sprint to the ring to attack Ricky Starks. Ricky escapes, goes up to the crowd.
Yeah, there was a great shot of Starks in the crowd. His back is turned to the camera. He turns around and goes like this.
Yeah.
Make for a good gif. After that, it is really fun to see, especially 2022 wasn't the best year for AEW story wise. Mm-hmm. It is really nice to see a lot of these things start to come together, and you see Ricky Starks become a star in front of our eyes.
Yeah,
like you can see him get that credibility. After a rocky 2022, where he was sometimes not even on TV for weeks or months at a time.
Yeah. And virtually I think just about every match on Dynamite last night was story motivated.
Yeah.
Or if not exactly story motivated, at least it was motivated by building up or developing one of the opponent or competitors in the match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Yeah.
It just seems like because Darby is continuing the story he had last time when he was TNT champion, he's going to wrestle all the time with it and wear himself out. Mm-hmm. Or is he going to wear himself out this time? He had the Top Flight match against the Young Bucks, get that huge win for Top Flight to build them up
Yeah.
Tag division.
Yeah, stuff seems
Every
to
match
matter.
had a purpose last night. Also.
They're not there. Yeah, it's like they're not spinning wheels. Yeah.
Yes.
After that, we had an Adam Cole returns video package. Talks about, I'm going to run AEW, and I'm going to run over anybody who stands in my way. Chug's Army.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a Chris Jericho interview. He says, Starks has been out there insulting us, mocking us. He's been evading us. And worst of all, he's been beating us. He said, but next week, it's all going to end because I've requested a tag team match with Starks and Action Andretti against Sammy and me, Chris Jericho. Garcia's there, and Sammy keeps on putting his hand on Garcia's over his shoulder. He keeps on get away. And so Garcia says, "Hey man, I'm getting my hands on Andretti this Friday. I want to get my hands on Starks too. Let me be your tag partner, Chris Jericho." And Sammy says, "Yeah, this is what we've talked about." He says, "We've trained for this. If you beat Action Andretti on Friday, you can have my spot. And I got you new gear just for you." And it's a pair of leather pants. And Jericho looks at it all weirdly and says, "Is this leather?"
Yeah. And then, as soon as Sammy hands Garcia his pants, he hugs him. And then Garcia's like, "Oh, get off me!" And Sammy does it again.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, and then Jericho says, whether it's Le Sex Gods, which is him and Sammy, or Garcia Co. Stark's lucky streak ends for good, and he was so pleased with his own creation of that name, Garcia Co., which is just awful.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
You know what, man? After criticizing the Garcia thing, him reverting, I really actually like. He's pretty fucking entertaining as a sports entertainer.
He is. So then we got Bryan Danielson versus Bandito. This match was absolutely spectacular.
Oh my God, yeah.
There's a lot of great, especially early on, there's a lot of great back and forth. And I know Bryan Danielson has talked for years about wanting to face Blue Panther, CML wrestler, Blue Panther. And they made a point of mentioning on commentary that I can't remember if it was Bandito trained with Blue Panther or had there was some relationship there of some degree. So there's a couple times where Bandito's looking to put Blue Panther's finisher on Danielson and does it at once. Little details that commentary helps flesh out for you, and it's great.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Great. So the finish of this sees Danielson get the win. So I'm not going to go by a beat-by-beat thing on this because there's just too much good stuff. Just go watch it. A lot of great technical stuff to start.
Especially towards the finish when it starts getting a little sloppy and you see Danielson. Danielson has a little smile on his face during most of the end of the match because it's just they're just beating the living shit out of each other. It's great.
They really are.
Yeah.
So down towards the finish, they're trading strikes, and then they're trading kicks, and then Bandito's looking for another stalling suplex. He hit one earlier. Danielson counters with the knee. He looks for a label lock, but then Bandito powers him up, and then Danielson kind of flings him off with a hip toss or an arm drag or something.
Yeah.
He's looking for a backslide. Bandito escapes that. Bandito looks for a clothesline. Danielson ducks that and hits a knee plus to get the win.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, MJF shows up on the Tron, and after they get the house audio and the TV audio worked out, you can finally hear what he's saying. So he says, "I'm feeling a little underappreciated around here. I'm not deaf or blind or dumb. I read all the things these fans have to say about me, claiming I'm not worthy, that I'm not deserving of my position in the company. I'm beginning to think that people forgot who I am or how I became your world champ, and I take that very personally. And to think about all the moments I've given you people. Fickle.
Ooh.
Since we've crossed paths, Bryan, you've only been dealing with masked Max. Masked, that's tough to say. Masked
Max.
Likes to keep things light, have fun. But you'll find that the further you go on this journey, the closer you get to March 5th, Revolution, in that 1 hour Iron Man match that you think that you want, the more my mask is going to begin to slip off. And Bryan, you don't want that shit. Nobody does. See, you may think you're a dragon, but not any dragon is a match for the monster behind the mask."
Oh, man, is MJF going to have his own Fiend character?
Maybe.
Maxwell Jacob Fiend. Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's a phoning it in MJF, but then there's the actual MJF, the monster.
Yeah. He's mentioned this in promos that he'll only wrestle at pay-per-view. So there's definitely an MJF team that's willing to coast a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
But once he feels, there's actual competition in front of him, his position is potentially threatened, and that's when he turns it up.
Yeah, we see a little bit more of MJF later on, but first, Saraya confronts Sheeta about throwing the kendo stick in the ring. Says, "What an idiotic move that was, throwing a kendo stick in the middle of the ring." Mm-hmm. And Tony says, "It wasn't Sheeta's fault that Brick got that kendo. I've known Sheeta for years. She'd never do anything like that. The problem is these AEW homegrown girls. They've just been in this bubble. They've never done anything else. But we know, And then Sheeta's like, "What the hell?" Yeah.
Because the subtext is they've never been in WWE, so they don't know how this business actually works.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess that is a bit of a rite of passage, the horror of working under Vince McMahon. What's up, Cultaholic? Rating us for 2 days in a row. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Oh my goodness gracious, so much love. So, anyways, Sheeta gets pissed. And then she says, Tony says, "Speaking of homegrown talent, tonight I'll face Willow, and I'm going to show Willow and everybody else exactly why we," talking about her and Saraya, "are the best." And then Saraya says, "And you, Sheeta, stay back here. Don't come out there." And they just leave.
Yep. Then we get a Brian Cage interview. He's got a match against Danielson next week. Asked, "How do you feel about that?" And he says, "How do I feel? It's about damn time." And then he's interrupted by MJF, who steps in. He says, "I hear you're a machine. Is that right? I need a machine. And what I got here, potentially for you," and he pulls out this giant envelope stuffed with money.
Oh, so much cash.
"Is this envelope?" It said, "In this envelope is more money than either of you," because Prince Nana is there as well. "Either of you gentlemen have seen in your lives. I don't care if you win. I don't care if you lose. But I do care that you break Danielson's arm. Sound doable?" And Cage says, "I could probably work that out." And MJF stands there, kind of nods his head. Whoop-ha, slaps him.
Wow.
So then Cage grabs MJF by the neck, and MJF asks, "Do you want this money or not?" And then Prince Nana steps up to Cage and goes, "Think about the money."
Yeah.
So Cage lets go. And MJF says, "That feeling you got right now, that
hate." He says hate. He said it's hate. There's no greater motivator.
So next week, use it. He says, "I learned from a young age, there's no greater motivator." Yeah.
Yeah.
So next week, use it. And then he hands the envelope to Prince Nana and says, "It's a pleasure doing business with you."
Yeah. A big old stack of cash.
Yeah.
After that, we had Toni Storm versus Willow Nightingale. Full-on heel situation here with Toni and Saraya. Saraya had a distraction seemed like Willow might have been on the verge of winning this, but then Saraya had the distraction. Toni Storm got a roll up with a handful of tights to get the win here. Saraya gets in the ring, blasts Willow from behind. Her and Toni start stomping on Willow. Sheeta gets on the apron to potentially help out. Now Ruby Soho runs to the ring to actually make the save. She got a big pop right there.
So a good story beat to start here in the beginning of the match is they shake hands to start.
Mm-hmm.
But then after Willow has the early advantage, Toni again offers her hand. And as Willow goes to shake, whoop-ha, slap.
Yeah. Yeah.
From that moment on, Toni Storm, heel.
Bad guy.
Yep. Then we get Ethan Page, Stokely Hathaway promo. Stokely says the locker room is buzzing because Jungle Boy is saying that he's done with them. But we're not done with you. And just like I told Big Bill, it's embarrassing that we lost to two people named Hook and Jungle Boy. What a bunch of ridiculous names. So Ethan says, "Stokely's been nice enough to let me make Isaiah's life a living hell. I've been having a blast with Matt Hardy on Elevation, but the fun is done. You want to tap out Lee Moriarty? Friday, it's payback."
I like this next bit of Konosuke Takeshita interview, and he's asked about his match with Bryan Danielson last week. It was a stellar match. Yeah. He says, "I loved wrestling Bryan Danielson. He's my hero, and I learned so much from that." He says, "Now I'm going to watch his back because I don't trust MJF." And then he says, "MJF," and he says a bunch of really aggressive stuff in Japanese. And then Renee says, "Well, what does that mean?" It says, "It means MJF is an asshole." I was a bit last week. I was like, they really need to give this guy a character. This is all I need. Because this shit was great. He says like a whole bunch of shit in Japanese, and they're like, "What does that mean?" It means he's an asshole.
Yeah. And Takeshita's expression after saying
a big smile on his face, like perfect. A big cheeky smile on his face. I thought it was good. Yeah,
it was really good. And then we had our main event: Kushida versus Darby Allin. Really fun bout.
It was a good one.
Kushida, as you would expect, working Darby's arm, softening it up for that hoverboard lock.
Dude, this is one of those. Even my arm was starting to hurt watching by the end of this match because he was working the shit out of this thing. It was great.
He was. That arm wringer on the floor was rough. At one point, Darby sets up a chair on the floor, hits Kushida with a bunch of strikes, puts him in the chair, is looking for a drop kick off the top. Well, Kushida avoids the drop kick and puts the arm bar on on Darby while he's on the floor. That bump just from the top rope to the floor enough was awful.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it was amazing.
That was rough. So Darby barely beats the 10 count there. They end up on the top rope. Kushida puts on like a key lock and then flings Darby off the top using that. Looks for a hoverboard lock. Darby blocks it. So then there's Young Lions ringside. They came out with Kushida. Of course, Sting's there with Darby.
Yeah.
So the Young Lions offer Sting their white towel so he can throw on the towel.
Yeah.
Well, Sting looks at it, wipes his face with it, and throws it to the crowd.
Yeah, no white towels here. No Trent Seven here, man.
Nope. So then Darby reverses the hoverboard lock into the Last Supper to pin Kushida to get the win.
Yep. Yeah, no, I thought that was a stellar match. Really good stuff.
It was good. It was really good. Fun episode of Dynamite.
Absolutely. So we have a question thread right here on the Patreon, patreon.com/Stephen Larson. Shout out to Franklin Davis, our most presidential sounding new patron here. Franklin Davis, new patron. Also Cruz, Mike Gould, Jack Napier, and Chris Louie, all over the past week or so, new patrons. So thank you so much for the support. We appreciate it and enjoy the bonus content. They all get to participate in the question thread that we do after for all the recap shows. Crane Pool 7 says, do you think the Elite will welcome Hangman back? Because that obviously is who Hangman was talking about when he says, I have some amends. I got to make amends with some people. Yeah,
that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I would think so.
Will they welcome him back?
They're good guys now, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think they're good guys.
Unless they're in Chicago, yeah.
That's a good point. But the same could be said for Hangman.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Alex Foster says, beside Juice Robinson, are there any current wrestlers you guys just don't get? Alex says, for me, it's Sasha and Judgment Day. No hatred. I've just never seen it. Okay. Sorry, Friendos. Please don't hate me.
It's all good. Nobody hates you. Anybody right now that you're just like, I don't know.
Nobody comes to mind. Like obvious names.
Yeah, right. I mean, nobody that like...
I mean, I should say of wrestlers who are relatively popular and reasonably well liked for their work.
So
I can't think of anybody that I'm like, I just don't get it.
I'll say this because I just don't think that they've been given much to work with, and I'm kind of waiting it out. But everybody loves Liv Morgan. And so far, I don't think anything she's really done, even with this latest iteration of her character, I'm not really into what I see. I'd rather her spot, because like she's on TV a lot. And I know Sonya Deville is too, but I really like Sonya Deville. And I'd like to see her succeed a lot more sort of in character on TV. So like, yeah, Liv Morgan, I've never really been like even her good promos are like, not really that.
Yeah.
I'm not really into it. Into it. Another, ooh, I shouldn't even say this one.
What?
I want to get in trouble. Alexa Bliss. I think there's a lot that she can do. I think she's capable of a ton, and her story has been so slow that I just don't really care. And there's other people that I do care to see, even if they're not given a whole lot. So that's why I point her out.
All right.
Man, I'm going to get all the Alexa stands in the comments are going to blow me up for that one.
It's like Adam Bullbebe here in chat says Randy Orton. I never really got Randy Orton until, I don't know, like 3 years ago, and then it made sense.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Jacob's mommy says Seth Rollins. Yeah, wow. I think Seth is doing great work.
Yeah, Seth is great.
Who's at? I'm trying to think of anybody at the top. Do I still have the, because I was doing a video on the betting odds for, whatchamacallit the other day.
Rumble?
Yeah, so like Drew is really close to the top of the betting odds.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I like Drew, though. I think he's great.
Yeah, Drew is great.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else. Oh, Section 4 Wrestling here in chat says Johnny Gargano. You know what's funny is that I actually understand that one. I don't feel that because I think that Johnny is fairly charismatic. Mm-hmm. But, like, I understand why people are like, yeah, Johnny Gargano's not that great. Especially since main roster they have not done.
Yeah,
they're not taking advantage of what he can do.
No, they haven't. They haven't at all. Cat Dad 7 says, who would have thought that the biggest story coming out of 2022-23 wouldn't involve Vince, but rather Larson being hesitant to take calls with Paul to looking forward to them.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Tomorrow, big call for you.
Yeah.
Triple H. Yeah.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Steve Klain says, I've always been a fan of open challenges. I like the matchups, and the Darby and Danielson have been having fun in their matchups you want to see in AEW that we haven't seen yet.
Have we seen Danielson versus Pac?
No.
I don't think we've seen that, have we?
Yeah, I want to see that. That'd be great.
That's a good one.
That would be great.
God, she looks so comfortable back there.
I know.
She looks so comfortable. She's so like, that was Turbo in his last like 4 years or so. It was like I would just walk by, he'd be on the couch or the bed, and I would just be like, this makes me want to sleep now.
I know. I see her back there, and I just want to take a nap. Yeah.
She's so comfortable. I was like, man, I might get rid of this couch. And Lacey's like, your dog spends most of her life on that couch. You can't get rid of it. Oh, that's a good point. Let's see.
Sleazy Mo, what's the possibility of Britt Baker turning on Jamie Hayter the same way Triple H turned on Orton in 2004? I think if they were going to do that, they would have done it pretty quickly after Jamie won the title.
Yeah, because it was literally like his celebration for winning the title.
Yeah. Yep.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. Luis Reza says, what are your thoughts about WWE's new commentary teams? Any changes or improvements? WWE's new commentary teams?
Still not huge on Kevin Patrick. I just don't really feel like he adds much of anything.
Dude, I can't. He sounds like a fan. He doesn't sound like a serious broadcaster. Like, oh man, look what's going on right now.
If you put Vic Joseph on Raw.
Yeah. Who's on Raw with
Corey Graves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Vic and Corey. They made a good team before.
Yeah, but then again, I really like Vic and Booker T on NXT. I don't want to break that up.
I mean, dude, honestly, just put Vic, Booker T, and Corey Graves. Just pay Booker a lot of money to travel. I think that's probably the thing. He probably just don't want to travel.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, he has to travel to Orlando once a week. He doesn't live in Orlando.
Yeah, I know, but that's like one play. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I know. I get the overall point.
He lives in Houston, right?
Yeah. If he's going to take a flight from Houston to Orlando as opposed to
Seems like that's like
a
routine that he'd probably easily get into, you know?
Yeah. The Yellow Flash, what do you think the reasoning behind Toni and Paige's turn is? For Toni, I get it because like she was champ and she had that interim tag on it for the longest time, and then she lost it, then lost the interim tag, and then lost it to a couple of AEW homegrown talents, and she's probably resentful of that. And I could see why Toni would be resentful. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And then I mean, I don't know with Saraya, maybe it's a matter of, hey, Jamie Hayter's the champion. We see all this love that she's getting, and I'm jealous of that. You know,
yeah.
I don't know in terms of like storyline, like I don't know, but I like it. I think it's interesting. It's not boring. It's all I want is to not be bored, and I think it's not a boring move, so I'm cool with it.
Agreed. David Matushek said Saraya and Toni Storm turned heel last night. Do you think there would be a possibility of a blood and guts match involving AEW originals and Saraya's team of former WWE outcasts being made as a blow-off? Yeah, I think that's a very real possibility. That's probably why there was quite a bit of discussion on social media last night about it.
So let's say AEW is going to do that blood and guts match. What is it, 4-on-4 or 5-on-5?
Let's say 4-on-4.
Okay, let's say 4-on-4. You got Saraya, you got Toni Storm.
You got Athena. You get Athena.
Athena, that's good. Oh, she'd be a lot of fun with those two. And then who else? Because on the other side,
they'll try to get Ruby on their side.
Try to get Ruby on her side, yeah. But then on the other side, you got Sheeta. You got
Willow.
Ruby. Yeah, but Ruby's the thing is it wouldn't really fit though because you're not doing the homegrown versus.
Well, I mean, her thing could be.
You got to do Hayter and Britt.
You could do Hayter and Britt, but I mean, you could do Ruby with the idea of she's the only former WWE wrestler who's like, no, this place is actually better, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, dude, when they did like, remember when they did the invasion in WWE? Like, none of it made sense.
No, it didn't make any sense.
It's like Jericho is still Team WWE, I think, and he obviously should have been Team WCW.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you want to, because they're not going to turn Ruby heel. I don't think that would be that would actually be a lot of fun though. Athena, Ruby, and Saraya and Toni. That's a fun group right there.
That is.
Fuck it, turn Ruby heel, turn her bad guy, and then you got Britt, Hayter, Willow, and then Sheeta. Oh, that's a killer 4-on-4 right there.
That'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun.
Who wins, man? Who wins?
Oh, the AEW originals have to go over.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Blake Whitehouse here asks, who should be AEW's first big part-timer?
Oh, wow. I would say Danielson.
I was about to say Danielson, too. He said this is going to be his last full-time contract, so.
I refuse to believe Mox is ever going to be a part-time guy.
No. I'd say either Danielson or Jericho. Like, Jericho wants to keep doing it, just not on a regular basis, in a few years.
Yeah. Let's see here. Patrick Sparks, B-Man says, Hangman said he had some fences to mend. How would you book the mending of fences between Page and the Elite and Page and the Dark Order?
Well, he'd have to get, the Dark Order signed back to the company because so many of them are gone.
So right now the Dark Order is just Silver, Reynolds, and Uno. Yeah. So he'd go to those guys and he'd say, look, it's time for you guys. It's time for some hard truths. Time for you guys to break up. Stop using the stupid Dark Order name. And then that's it.
What if he tries to create a super faction between the Elite and the Dark Order?
The Elite should laugh at him. Say, the Dark Order is not elite. Like the Dark Order show up with Elite gear on, and then whoever the Lex Luger of the Elite is would come out and say, you are not elite, like Lex Luger did to Rey Mysterio.
Yes.
Let's see here. Mayor Planet Houston says, who's the better dad, Rey Mysterio or Billy Gunn? I feel like Billy Gunn is, to be honest with you. He's not completely trying to annihilate his kids. He's like, hey, you guys are acting like assholes. I like the Acclaimed. They don't act like assholes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a line that I'm not going to cross. Rey Mysterio, he had his child's custody up on the line in a ladder match.
Yeah.
That to me that's enough to be like, you're worst dad ever. Not ever, but that's a really, really bad dad.
Yeah.
Like Eddie Guerrero was like, I'm your new puppy, I say. He said that to a 6-year-old. I'm your new puppy, I say. Oh, that's an all-time one. That's an all-time line. Yeah, it's Ray. Ray's terrible. Anyways. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Once again, if you're watching this on YouTube and you enjoyed the show, do us a favor. Give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and the notify bell. We'll be back tonight for Smash Zone live on the Twitch, twitch.tv/Steven Larson. Mm-hmm. And that's going to do it. So, yeah, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.